Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. We've got Kelly here with us today. And Kelly, catch us up. I don't think I've asked this in a while. What are you currently reading, listening to, consuming? What's kind of your big learning for this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with asset protection. Asset protection. I'm going to go with that. That's one thing I've been really diving deep on here recently. And we go in cycles, we go in phases, we go in seasons, right? But making sure your assets are protected is very important, even if you don't have, quote unquote, a lot by maybe some people's standards. So you still want to protect what you have. And it can be something as simple as making sure your beneficiaries get whatever you have when you pass away. Or some people say graduate to heaven one day, right? So anyways, that sort of thing, which is by the way, fascinating. It's fascinating.
There a specific book that you're looking in, or just like doing your own research, kind of, aggregating online stuff? What do you recommend if somebody wants to look a little bit further into that?
Yeah, you know what? Just really aggregating online stuff right now. There's a lot of books out there, but yeah, I think if you go online, you get different people's perspectives because it's not all like one person doesn't, I don't think, know it all necessarily, especially not at the top of their head. So I think just aggregating.
It's probably not a
online.
one size fits all solution, right?
No.
There are different ways to go about it, and kind of
Correct.
got to figure out what works best for you.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that's why, at some point, talking to an attorney is a very good idea.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, starting to get a little bit of the understanding of it. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that kind of falls in line with what we're talking about today, which, assets, a lot of people, their assets are in investments, right? And we've obviously talked about real estate investing quite a bit in the past. If you want to go back, search the episodes for anything investing related, how to buy your first, investment property, kind of the things to look for. We've done a whole bunch about that. Taxes. We've talked about taxes and investing before. And today we are going to kind of jump back on that train, since it's been a while, and talk about how to buy real estate through your IRA. So Kelly, break it down for us. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's rock and roll on this here. This is fascinating to me, this topic. Now, first of all, I got to say that I'm not a registered licensed or by any stretch of imagination financial advisor or a custodian
Disclaimer.
Or anything of that nature. Yeah. Disclaimer up front. Okay. But just the general overall topics of this is what I want to hit today, because I think a lot of people don't really understand that. And I know realtors, a lot of people get the license and become a realtor because they actually want to invest in real estate. But sometimes they forget that somebody has to have a day job. Somebody has to have some sort of income coming in. And so I tell agents all the time, especially on my team, I say, look, your real estate sales role, your job is just that. It's your day job. So whether you are a real estate agent for your day job, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're, you work for the city as some sort of accounts receivable, analyst or rep, whatever it is, being an engineer or an attorney, it could be anything that you do, drive Uber, that's your day job. Okay. Now, what you do with the income that you receive from your day job in terms of investing is what will define the rest of your life. And there's really three main classes I talk about when it comes to investing. And you can break these down 7 which ways from Sunday, but those 3 main asset classes are going to be real estate, businesses, or then you have like your stocks and bonds, commodities, that sort of thing. Those are the 3 general big umbrellas for taking dollars that you earn and putting them to work. So we're talking about specifically real estate in this example. Now we could actually talk about the other 2 a little bit on this, because we're talking specifically also about the mechanism that you can use to actually buy real estate. So now if we bring this full circle here, Elizabeth, your IRA, okay? Your IRA. Now, a lot of people have IRAs. There's 2 main types, right? And that is an IRA, a traditional IRA, which is pre-tax dollars. So why do people do that? Well, they do that because they can actually save on paying some taxes by doing so, and that money gets invested. Okay, so not a bad deal. However, you're delaying paying the piper for X amount of years until you retire, and then you can access the IRA and that money. Now, when you access the traditional IRA dollars at 59 and a half, you will have to pay taxes on the gains over all those years. Okay. So unfortunately, that could be bad based upon your tax bracket you're going to be at when you're 59 and a half, based upon the tax bracket you're at today. And the big argument, guys, is well, taxes over the next 10, 20 years, whatever, are probably going to go down or up. Most likely up. That's what everyone kind of thinks because that's kind of the way the world has been working for the last 100 years, at least in America, right?
Everything goes up for the most part.
Yeah. So chances are they won't be lower, but maybe even if they're something to consider, even if they are higher, as tax brackets, as percentages, maybe yours is lower because maybe you have stopped working at age 57 or 55 or something like that, right? Maybe you don't have, maybe you have more deductions, maybe you have less. But the general thought is you're going to have less deductions because maybe your kids are all grown up at this point, right? Maybe you don't have a business you own anymore or whatever it is. And so even though you might be at a lower income level, potentially you don't have the write offs. And therefore, at the end of the day, you're going to be paying more on taxes for the distributions you take from the income you earned over those years being in the IRA. So when you invest in the IRA, okay, you have a company. I think I don't want to get the terminology incorrect here, but I think it's like a custodian, so to speak, right? This is your typical brokerage IRA, a Charles Schwab or whatever it is, right? And when you go with your typical brokerage IRA, you are limited typically to only investing in a certain amount of stocks, bonds, etc., that come with the management of the IRA investment options. Okay. You're not in full control, in other words, of what you want to invest in. All right. So now let's pause that for a second. The second type of IRA is called a Roth IRA. Now, there's opinions on both sides of this fence, if you will, but a Roth IRA works very similar like a traditional IRA in terms of an investment, okay, that you can put money into that will grow over time. However, a Roth IRA is after tax dollars. So you've already paid taxes on the income you received on this certain amount of money, and you can put a certain amount of money, limited, I think around 7,000, 7,500, somewhere in there, right? Don't look that up on a quick Google search, but
Spending, I
the
think, around
limits are
6,000.
okay, it's around that number, and you can put that into your Roth. Now, because it's already after tax money, the cool thing about this is any growth you have in your Roth until you take it out age 59 and a half is tax free. That is cool. You have to just pay the piper now in terms of your tax liability to put the money in there. Okay. And the cool thing about a Roth as well is that if you need, say you can have the Roth act as an emergency fund. See, a lot of people, when it comes to good money management, say, look, the first thing you got to do outside of getting a budget, right? Budget is have that emergency fund set aside. So where if something breaks down, you have cash to be able to survive, right? And they say a lot of times it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your personal living, monthly living expenses. Now, sometimes people say it's even less than that, but just have something, 2,000 bucks, 3,000 bucks, anything for the basic necessities if things really go haywire. Okay. But did you know that if in a Roth IRA, you can actually take the principal you put in, the distribution you put in, and you can take it out without a penalty. Gains, you cannot. Your initial principal, you can. So that can act as an emergency fund if needed, but you don't really want to do that ideally because obviously if you take principal out, it's no longer earning interest or earning any money for you, right? And you want to keep it in there to keep rocking and rolling with the compound effect. So now we set the stage for those two IRAs. Now, if you want to invest in something besides what is offered from your brokerage, like real estate, you can't do that unless you have a self directed IRA. So, what you could do is roll this over. Take your typical IRA account that you have at the brokerage account, and you say to the person that's the custodian or whoever that's managing this account, say, look, I want to self direct my IRA. Therefore, you will roll over the funds in that account into another company that it acts as, again, as another custodian, but they are custodian of self directed IRAs, which are different. When the money comes to that self directed IRA, especially as a Roth, it's easy because you can just convert that right away, no issues.
Mm-hmm.
A traditional IRA, if you convert that, well,
Got
to
to
a
pay
Roth
taxes.
especially, To a
Yep.
Roth, you're going to have to pay some taxes, right? That's just what it is to a Roth. But if you want to roll it over as a traditional to a traditional, you can do that too and still buy money out of it. But again, any funds that you or any income you make off that over the years will be taxed when you pull it out. Now, you can roll it over into a self-directed IRA, and then you can take that money and you can buy a rental house. You can buy any type of real estate. You can buy land. You can buy cows. People invest in cows, right? Or cattle. You can buy anything, Bitcoin, crypto, anything you want to with that money. It's yours to self direct. Okay. Now, the income you make off that investment, although it might be the reason you're probably doing it is because you're maybe a little familiar with it. Maybe you believe you can get better returns on that. It's still income you're making off the investment that goes back into the IRA. Okay. And what you should do is create an LLC, especially if you're going to buy a rental property. This is more asset protection, but you should create an LLC and have the IRA own the LLC. Okay. So that way you're protected on that rental property, number one. Number two, any income you make has to go back in the IRA. Okay. Now, people are like, well, I can't touch it. So, okay, but you can't touch it regardless, whether it's invested in stocks and bonds or real estate. You still can't touch it unless you want some sort of maybe ramification or consequence, right? Before 59 and a half. But you get the ability to direct it how you want it to be directed. So if you're a realtor and that's something you want to do, that's definitely something I would highly recommend and to explore further. But not only for you, all of your clients. How many people, how many realtors out there today are talking to their clients, their clientele base, whether it be on social, one to many, or one on one on a phone call, are encouraging or at least letting them know this is an option because most Americans have some type of an IRA. Most do. Now, you can have a 401k too. That's a whole other topic. But most have some type of IRA. There's a SEP, there's a simple, there's a custodial for kids. There's all kinds of different, types of IRAs, traditional Roth. So talk about people like, well, I can't invest in real estate. Well, do you have an IRA? Well, yeah, of course. My work provides one, and I had that for years. Did you know you could buy a rental house with the IRA money? I can. Yes, you can. This is how you do it. Okay. So just generally educate them, plant a seed, and then all the mechanical specifics we can work out by getting a specialist on the line to direct them the appropriate way because we're just realtors. We are not specialists on those things.
Connectors. You educate and
Connectors.
connect, but don't try to go too far outside what you know, right?
Very true. Very, don't get over
Yes.
your skis, right?
Yeah.
Know enough to be dangerous and then connect them with the right specific specialist.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay. Well, like I said, we are diving a little bit back into investing. And again, if this kind of caught your attention because now you see a path for you to invest or, something that you can direct your clients to do using that IRA, now is the time to go back and listen to all of our other things on starting kind of your path to investing. Bunch of episodes available there. And Kelly, if anybody has any questions on this, of course, again, disclaimer, Kelly is not a financial expert, but he can probably help kind of point you in the right direction. Kelly, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, on Instagram at Kelly Cook Homes, DM me there, or just shoot me a text 480-227-2028.
All right, everybody, and we will see you all next time. Bye, Kelly.
See you guys.